Hey guys, welcome back to the channel, and today we're gonna be reacting to
6 house differences, Germany versus USA.
What we're gonna talk about is the bedroom.
Yeah. We want to talk about beds in the bedroom. Measurements are always different, and it's so frustrating between us. I'm used to twin, full, queen, king-size beds, and Phil had no idea what I was talking about.
Exactly.
Because he used, what is it?
We just used the measurement in metrics, of course.
Yeah.
It's just a 140 bed, 1 meter 40,
I remember
1 meters.
when your family sent us like sheets. I didn't know for which bed it was to go on.
Oh, yeah, it's different.
60, 1 meter 80, 2 meters, all that stuff. And I was very confused when I heard about that first. Yeah, they have a twin bed. And one thing Germans always get confused is twin and double. What's the single one and what's the double one?
A double is like slightly smaller than a queen.
Yeah.
It's a little annoying and confusing, especially when you travel to different countries, because sometimes they'll use the German measurement, the metric measurement, and then sometimes they'll
I think
use
they
like
gave us double
Where?
the sheets. I don't know what the size they were.
Whatever, there's no like double. I'm sure it's different than our double is. Like, the size is just different. It's not double, it's not queen, it could be like in between. Like, it's not one or the other. Like, it could just be anything.
twin or a queen or different measurements, so it's always a fun time.
And it was so hard to understand how wide is a queen. And I'm saying 160, 1 meter, 60 centimeters.
I don't know, it's a queen.
But then I have to think, wait, but you use feet and inches,
Yeah.
so 160, how much is that?
Yeah, you see the measurements are a little different.
But once you get used to it, it's kind of okay. So I know in my head now, California king, 2 meters. That's what I'm looking for. California king.
Yeah, and another thing we instantly noticed is that there are 2 different mattresses in Germany, right? Like, oftentimes you'll find that.
Often, yeah.
Whenever we're at a hotel or an Airbnb or even like your parents' house, there's 2 mattresses.
What she means is 2 mattresses in one bigger bed. For example, you have a king size, and you, instead of using 1 king mattress, oftentimes, not always, we use 2 single mattresses. I think it has advantages and disadvantages. It's kind of like a little cozy.
I've seen that in the hotels, but it's like,
Is it good?
no,
I don't know.
I don't like. There's a gap in between. It's not like a gap. It's still like a little hole. I don't like it.
Yeah, you have one big one, I think, but the advantage is you can have different ones. If you like a harder one,
Fur
or like
mattress,
a
yeah.
soft one, you can have your own.
It's also nice if he decides to wet the bed, we only have to change out his bed sheets.
Hey, that happens maybe once or twice a year.
Yeah. And I think what is a relationship saver is having 2 bed sheets, like blankets.
Oh, yeah.
Dude,
That's
I
the
didn't
weirdest
even
thing.
know that was possible. My parents, my grandparents, they all share the same bed sheets.
You mean one blanket?
One
wide blanket?
wide blanket, one set of bed sheets, and
One
I think, no, not one pillow. But I think it's honestly a relationship saver. I feel super spoiled. Now we have to have 2 different blankets, or it's not a good night of sleep. We're fighting.
Yeah, I have a thing with blankets. We have 3 in the bed. I need 2. One is my side sleeping pillow.
It's normal to have 1 blanket, I thought,
Yeah.
but I don't know. Maybe let us know in the comments. Do you have 1 blanket or 2 blankets with your significant other? Your
That is interesting. Never in Lithuania, it's 1 blanket. Yeah, 2. I've never seen, separate blankets.
And they,
4.
yeah,
You cannot have too many blankets.
but that was relationship saver.
Yeah. Another thing in the bedroom are the closets. And I think in the US, it seems to me it's way more common that you have built-in closets into the apartments or the houses, and oftentimes they're walk-in. And walk-in closets are fairly popular in Germany. If you have like a lot of space or you build your own house, then oftentimes, not always, people get a walk-in closet. But in the US, it's so normal. We have these standalone, big, chunky closets for like IKEA
a
or whatever.
wardrobe or an armoire. It's
Yeah, in Lithuania is like this too. We don't have walk-in closets.
like a set cabinet cupboard.
Exactly.
In the US, it doesn't really have to be a walk-in closet, like that's luxury. Oftentimes there'll be still a built-in closet where you open the doors and there's racks and everything set up for you. That's very popular. I feel like I stayed in some very crappy apartments and they were pretty cheap, and they would...
I mean, I guess I don't mind the the regular closet. It just kind of takes up space, So it's like walk-in closet also takes up space, but I don't know. It's not. I guess they're just different. I don't know. Neither is like better. It's just different.
would still have at least a mini closet.
I think it's nice because when you have to move, you don't have to haul your huge ass closet around.
Yeah.
So it's there. But then again, what if it's too small or too big?
Yeah, I was in this one apartment where they had a very small closet, or it was like non-existent, so I had to get one of those racks from like the stores and hang my clothes on that way.
That's student style. We do that too.
Yeah, and the last thing we want to talk about in the bedrooms are the shutters.
The blinds.
The blinds. Dude, I think it's like luxury to me having those blackout shutters that completely close, and so you don't even know if it's day or night. It's so nice. In the US, we often have these like little plastic blinds or like curtains. You have blackout curtains or like these other blinds.
I think, yeah, it's very nice. I like to sleep completely dark, so that's a big thing. But it's also good for isolation.
Oh, yeah, insulation. Insulation.
Also good for insulation.
I noticed a lot of Germans say isolation. Is that the actual, is that the right word? I always say insulation.
I don't know. But either way, it keeps the house warm in winter and...
That's a good point. Insulation. But yeah, those shutters, like we have it, but it's not like super common. I think like blackout curtains more so common in Lithuania.
Cold in summer.
Well, it makes sense because you get very drastic seasons here. It'll be very hot in summer, very cold in winter, so having that is nice.
I think most houses have them or all of them, and if you look for like cheaper living, oftentimes that's a big plus if they have it. But it's pretty common.
It's luxury to me. I love it. Our second...
But I would like the shutters. I think the shutters is a cool idea instead of a curtain. I feel the shutters are pretty cool.
Room we want to go through is the bathroom.
Ooh, the bathroom. Important room of the house. And one thing I noticed is, we talked about that before, the detachable shower heads. In Germany, we almost always have them. You have a detachable one, oftentimes you can put it on top or wherever, and you have this hose and you can move it around, right? And in the US, a lot of times, not always, there's a fixed shower head, and it's just at this certain height, like 6'2" or whatever, on the wall, and there's no way to just like pull it down. So that's a difference I noticed, and I miss the hose one if I don't have it.
Yeah, we were actually recently in a hotel in Berlin, and they still...
I think those are... And like you can change it though. It's not like a permanent fix. Like here where we live, we do have a detachable one as well. I think they're pretty easy to fit. Like I think they have like the standard. The hose has like a standard, the screw, so you can just take it off and put whatever you want. By default, I do think they come like fixed, like they showed. But if you don't like it, you can change it.
Still have the detachable shower head, which I find so frustrating sometimes because it'll like move and flop. I kind of got used to it, but I still like the fixed shower head personally.
Really?
Yeah.
You like it?
Yes.
Over the other one?
Yes. It's just, why are you holding so much extra stuff?
But you can just have
soap
it on
and
there.
washing there. Yeah, but it always falls off. You don't know how many times this detachable thing has fallen off, and I'm like bending over to pick it. You talking about the soap? You're bending over to pick up.
In our bathroom, it falls down a lot, so that's annoying. But that should not be the case normally.
Yeah.
Bad impression for Germany.
Our second thing we want to talk about in the bathroom are...
I think maybe this, like, they're talking more about, like, when you rent a house, but I feel like if you build a house, you can build whichever way you want it, so, like, whichever is your preference.
Toilets. Now, I have a lot to say about the toilets. First off, I want to just talk about something a little PG, the buttons. There are always buttons in the German toilets. You push a button to flush, versus a lot of times in the US, there'll be a little knob, a little handle that you have to push down.
Oh, yeah.
Flop
That's
down.
from the 70s.
Okay. I don't know. And I notice in a lot of German toilets, there are always two buttons, depending on if you go number 1 or number 2.
Exactly, sips of water.
Yeah, it's nice. I like it. And then also another thing I noticed is, because of the way the plumbing works, I recently changed out a toilet, or helped change out a toilet at my grandparents' house. The plumbing in Germany is against the wall, so the toilet never touches the ground. There's enough extra space if you want to clean or mop, versus in the US it goes straight down. So that's something I noticed, that it's just easier to clean the German toilets, I think.
I think the wall attached ones, I just don't...
That's interesting. I'm trying to think how it is in Lithuania, and I don't remember. I don't know. I've seen the toilets that are not not on the floor. I've seen them, but like my grandparents' home, I can't remember how they are. That's interesting. I guess I never registered it as like like a big deal. I never noticed it.
A little more modern. Like a couple decades ago, everybody had the one standing on the ground.
Ah, yeah?
And everybody had the little handle on the side. I think that's just a little outdated.
So fancy.
I don't know. I don't want to offend any Americans, and of course, some of you have the newer ones. But I just think, in general, Germans put a little bit more emphasis on living. I don't know. Maybe it's because our weather sucks badly.
You spend a lot of time indoors.
A lot of time indoors. Nowadays, they hang on the wall, and it seems like, how much weight can I put on that?
Exactly. That's the biggest negative for these toilets. I'm afraid I'm going to break the toilet one day because sometimes it shifts a little bit. Am I going to break?
I feel like they should be built pretty, like that the regular human should be able to. I don't think it should break. I don't think it should break on like an average sized human. I mean, if you like weigh,
How much weight do you think it could sustain?
I have no idea, but I think there's standards up to which, you know, I think for regular people it should hold. I don't think
Right,
that's a
this
problem.
toilet, if I sit on
I
it.
think you can put 500 pounds on there. That shouldn't be a problem. And
Challenge accepted. Going back to older toilets in Germany, it's if you go number 2, your little creation is on display.
it lands on this thing.
Yeah, my grandparents have a toilet like that. It's no.
Lands on the flat part, not the one where it lands on this like pedestal.
Wow, nice one. I sent it to you later.
Oh, picture. I was like, what are you doing? I think so. Oh my god, it was the worst thing ever. I did not like using the bathroom on those toilets.
Really?
Yeah, it's horrible.
We had one like this in our house growing up. Funny thing about that, me growing up, I was used to the one where it lands to, right? So once we changed and it falls into the water, one thing that freaked me out a bit is the water splashes up against
You
the
gotta
butt
hop a little bit.
sometimes. I don't know how old I was, maybe 10,
Right.
when we switched, and then it was like, ooh, now it falls into the water.
Oh,
That's
yeah.
an amazing topic. We should talk way more about that.
Yeah, we had weird conversations about this. We'll stop now.
So before we go into our third point, we want to give a quick shout out to our Patreons, we support us. That big thank Vera Ration.
In the US, it is often that you will find a washer and a dryer. If you don't have a washer or dryer in your house, you'll often go to the laundromat, where there will be a washer and a dryer available there.
Now,
But
I
that-
wonder if they're going to address laundromats, because I don't think there's laundromats like that like there are here. I want to see if they're going to talk about it.
best ones are the ones at the cafe, so you can eat while waiting for your laundry to finish.
Oh.
But in Germany, this is not the case.
Yeah, it is kind of the case, but where I grew up, we never had a dryer.
Yeah.
And dryers are kind of common, but nowhere on the level like they are in the US.
Well, if you don't have a dryer, you dry your clothes at a
Hang it up.
laundromat. Yeah, no.
We hang them up. We hang up our clothes on these little lines or on a stand, a rack. Yeah.
In summer, everyone hangs them up outside. It's so nice.
Yeah.
You can see when your neighbors are doing their laundry.
Exactly, in summer it dries very quickly.
Yeah.
But if you're like a student or cheaper living, you usually do not have a dryer. If you have a more modern house, a bigger house, a lot of families have a dryer. But funny thing, my mom implemented this fear of dryers into my
they
head.
talked about
Because as a
it in the
kid,
last
I had
video.
friends and they had a dryer, and I was like, why don't we have a dryer? You put it in, it comes out dry. And she's like, no, it ruins the clothes. They shrink, they stretch, they're gone. And I have this deep fear implemented in me. Every time we threw stuff in the dryer in the US, I was like,
Yeah.
I hope my clothes come out again.
Now,
yeah.
at my parents' house, we would still hang up athletic clothes, certain delicates. You would hang those up to dry, but for most of the t-shirts, the cotton stuff we wore, we just threw it in the dryer. It was easier. You can do a light cycle, so it's not as intense
Yeah.
and hot. Our fourth room in the house we want to go through is the kitchen.
I think that's one of the most interesting ones. First of all, I think the US and Germany, they have a lot of the same appliances
Yeah.
in the kitchen, which is makes sense, right? But there are a lot of big differences in the kitchen. One thing is, you often have these open kitchen
concepts.
layouts, like from the living room to the kitchen. And I think in Germany, very modern houses tend to do that more now.
Yeah.
But in general, on average, it's way more common that you have a separated kitchen.
Yeah, I think that goes back to like when the house was built, because older houses in the U.S. have the separated kitchens, but if they renovate it or it's newer, they open it up, so it's a big open floor plan now. It just goes with the time.
That's cool. Another thing that I love in the US, you oftentimes have these big kitchen aisles.
Yeah.
And that's another thing that's coming up in Germany, but it's not that common. We usually just use the table or whatever countertop, but these aisles are very
The little islands or peninsulas.
typical for the US.
Yeah, it's like an extra counter space where you can either eat or just like prepare food on. I love it.
Then one thing I still to this point do not fully understand is a garbage disposal.
Oh yeah.
How does it work? Like, where does it go? Is there a can underneath? You just throw stuff in there?
It
Or-
just
Oh yeah, I'm not. We don't use it.
Yeah.
I
don't like
we
it.
do have it, but I
don't
don't
like
use
it.
I don't. I would never use it, so I don't even know what to do with it.
chops up the stuff into small pieces.
I get that, but where does it go? It just disappears
To the
magically. It
sewage?
magically disappears. You don't need to do trash. You just throw everything in the garbage disposal and then it's gone.
I
If you
think it's
does it-
actually not good. Like, I think environmentally, it's, I don't know, maybe someone knows out there if it's good or bad, but I think,
go through the pipe somehow into the sewage, right?
Yeah.
We do not have that. I have not been in one house in Germany that has a garbage disposal.
I mean, some places in the US don't have them, you know? I even remember dropping glass down there once and having to fish it out and being very careful because you're like, I'm gonna break my fingers.
It's always in the shows though when they're like getting their hands stuck
Yeah.
and they're like, oh my god, and I don't know.
Okay, but the important thing about the kitchen that I want to talk about is when we were talking about renting places in Germany, Phil talked about how the apartment might not come with a
yeah.
kitchen. And I was like, huh? That's not like, it's a part of the house. Like,
Exactly. That's how I see it. It's the stupidest thing. In Germany, if you rent a house or an apartment, not always, but oftentimes does not come with a kitchen. Means there's an empty room just with the
Yeah, we saw that in another video. Yeah.
Nonsense. No sense. That's no sense.
Yeah, I don't know. If you like want to commit and live there for like 10 years, I guess you can buy your own appliance. But if you're looking for something for a year, having to buy your own kitchen, like
there must be
that's a big investment.
Renting program you have to do probably.
I don't know, but that's a big investment to buy your own oven, the fridge, everything, and then you leave a year later and have to worry what to do with all of that. Yeah, I don't like that either.
Plugs, the water thing and whatever
Pipes and stuff.
Yeah, and you have to bring your previous kitchen or the kitchen that you own to your new place. And I think it's
moving all that heavy shit is crazy.
Stupidest thing ever. I looked at so many apartments, I moved around a lot, and every time there was no kitchen, I was like, no, can't do that, screw it, I can't buy a kitchen. I actually did that once. I did that once in southern Germany. I bought this weird kitchen. Afterwards, I threw it out into the front yard.
To me, it does, as a landlord, it doesn't really make sense. I feel like that's more wear and tear if people are dragging new kitchens into your apartment every time they move. But I also think you made a good point that since the renting market is so difficult, a lot of people stay longer term.
Oh yeah, it's a total long-term thing. Imagine you have to move every half year or year.
I wouldn't move just because of my freaking kitchen.
Yeah,
that's so annoying.
Yeah, it has to be a commitment. Like if you're moving in, I don't know, for 6, 7, 8 years, okay, I can see like, you buy your own appliances, yeah. But if you don't know, you go for a year, you go on a year-to-year basis, and you have to leave in a year. Like, what am I supposed to do with the kitchen?
I've never heard anywhere else like that. I don't know. Let us know if you live in another country and if that's a common thing for you, because that was so foreign and so bizarre to me that when you talked about moving a kitchen.
I hate it. Point number 5 is going to be the house structure and other miscellaneous stuff.
Yeah, I think the first one we want to talk about in this are the windows. Every American that comes to Germany is fascinated by the windows because we don't have these types of windows. We have the classic windows that pull up and down. If you're lucky, you have a nice screen to block out the mosquitoes and the bugs, but it's just a normal up and down window.
It means it only opens halfway.
Yeah, it can only open it halfway. And like in the movies, when you break into one of these windows, you can go like bam, and then you just flip the lock and then open it. Versus in Germany, it has this cool mechanism where you open it and it opens.
This one is like that too.
Opens up like this, and you open it, and you can open it all the way.
Yeah, it opens 2 ways. One, just to ventilate, like only the top for the air to come in, and then if you want to stick your head out, you open it for the
peek out if you want.
Yeah, sometimes I tilt.
Yeah, it's fascinating. It's not the most amazing thing to me, but it's cool. I also noticed that they tend to be a little thicker for the winter insulation environment.
I like the European style windows better, especially in a house. In an apartment, maybe like a safety hazard, I don't know, for the kids, if you can open them, I don't know. But in a house, I like it.
They're a little better, right?
I don't think they're that great, but yeah,
I think they're a little better, but they are also very expensive. When it's like a thick window, you get 2 layers of glass or 3 layers of glass, the better. The more layers of glass, the better the insulation, isolation, and the noise cancellation, all that stuff.
Yeah. All right. Next point we want to talk about is the heating/air conditioning. It's a pretty noticeable difference if you go into a house, and a lot of times there'll be like the little heaters, like versus having like an in-unit heating system throughout the house. Because there's just a little heater.
Yeah.
You know what I'm talking about?
So your in-unit.
I wonder how the heating works here, like up north. Because I'm used to the radiators, I've always been here we don't need heating, so I have no idea. I wonder how in the northern states, how they heat it up.
System, like a centralized.
Yeah, centralized, that's sort of.
Is that, so it's one temperature for every room setting? Or?
Well, you can sometimes get it different from the upstairs and the downstairs, but yeah, it's AC or heating usually throughout the house, and these little vents they come out of.
Yeah, we have these heaters in every room. Usually, that's a little old school too though. Nowadays I try to hide them, but we have a lot of them, and then you have a thermostat, that thing is what?
Yeah.
Knobs where you can adjust for every room. It's basically how much hot water goes in. But another thing is, we're missing the freaking air conditioning in Germany. It's because you don't really need it, but for the couple of weeks in summer, it gets very hot here, and it gets unbearable sometimes to sleep.
But I think what is great about the homes in Germany are what they're made out of. It's more of these concrete slabs. I don't know, it's concrete. It's a very hard structure.
The walls.
Yeah, the walls. Which helps with the insulation.
Yes, the weirdest thing here, here in the apartment, the outside walls is fine, it's concrete, but the in-between room walls is I don't know, plaster. In Lithuania, it's bricks. Here is the wall.
You could put a hole in.
Here you could put a hole in the wall. In between the rooms. Lithuania, you won't break your hand. It's a brick. Every wall is built the same way. It's a brick.
Insulation, because oftentimes in the U.S. you'll use different materials like wood, brick, stone, stucco. It's not this is super expensive to have this like hard concrete, I think. So it's not as good at insulating as here. Like,
and not as sturdy.
Yeah, not as sturdy.
It's weird to me though, because I think if you compare prices Germany to the US is so expensive. The houses are just way more expensive. Of course, it depends on the area, but taking like same comparable areas.
Yeah.
I think in the US, a wooden house is more expensive than in Germany a stone house, and nobody here builds a wooden house.
Yeah.
Maybe it's because it's too
location,
cold.
that's real estate.
Yeah, but even in the most expensive or crappiest areas, wherever, nobody builds a wooden house. So I don't know why that is. That is the stone stuff in the US is so expensive.
Yeah.
But here, this is very normal.
It's common. Like, you can't punch through this wall. Like, you could in a US house sometimes. You can just cut through, punch through the drywall.
It's very sturdy. It's actually a little bit of a stereotype when you think about the US and US houses. A lot of people in Germany tend to make fun of it. Like, and then the tornado comes and blows your house away. That can't happen here. We're so cool.
Yeah, it could. If you catch a tornado, it doesn't matter. They will take it. It's just the inner walls is the biggest difference. The outer walls is still the same concrete blocks.
Oh, really?
Yeah,
I mean, it kind of makes sense.
That's a stereotype, or is that a stereotype called when it's for a house? I don't know. But you know what I mean.
Yeah.
But I think they're not worse. Like, what does it really come to? If you don't have termites or whatever, or damages, I would be fine with a wooden house.
Yeah. I'd be fine with a clean house.
Yeah,
Sauber bitte.
And our sixth and final point is the gardens, how I say it, or the backyard, how the Americans say it.
It's my backyard. I'm going to barbecue later on today.
Yeah. And one thing I noticed about that is I think in Germany, on average, the people just care a little bit more about their gardens. We call it garden here. And I think it's a hobby for a lot of people just to do some little gardening. Usually
in the summer,
the grass, we have grass and it's nicely nurtured, whatever. You have bushes and you have to cut them a couple times a year, and you have these flower beds and all that stuff. That's very common in Germany. My parents always did that. For me, growing up, I had to help out there, and I didn't like that. But I think in the US, what I noticed is a lot of people seem to not give a crap about what their backyard looks. And I can totally relate to that. That would be me. If I ever have a backyard, there's either going to be nothing in it, or pool, or just something very simple. I don't want to...
Pool would be nice.
Yeah, I don't want to fork the leaves all the time and all that stuff. What do you call it?
I mean, it depends. Front yard, in front of the house, there's regulations. You have to trim the lawn at a certain height. So you can't just abandon it. You won't get fined. The backyard, I guess, nobody really, I don't think there's regulations because you can't see. Unless your neighbors like snitch on you, then I guess they can inspect. But I guess if, nobody sees, you can do whatever you want there.
Hey, that's the word.
I go out there and fork the leaves.
Well, you know what I mean. I would be the person that don't give a crap about that.
Yeah, I think this heavily depends on the person's personal preference, because some people have super nice gardens in the US or backyard. Example are my parents versus his parents. His parents love gardening; it's a hobby of theirs.
Yeah.
My parents could care less; they just want to mow the lawn, have it done, and that's the end of that. Like it's more of a task, not really a hobby
Exactly.
for them.
Yeah.
And I think that depends. It really depends on the person.
I'm more like her parents.
Yeah, but we really just wanted to throw in the words gardens versus backyard, because I've started to say gardens instead of backyard. Like, the back garden, or you want
Let's go to the garden.
It sounds super British.
We oftentimes have a front garden, a small one in front of the house,
Yeah,
and then one in the back of the house.
Really?
A big garden.
You call it garden in the front too? We call it yard. Front yard
front
versus
garden.
backyard.
Foregarden. Front garden.
I didn't know that.
Yeah.
That's it for this video.
Alright, interesting.
Okay, guys, let us know your thoughts. Remember to like, comment, and subscribe. Join the Discord. And as always, share as much kindness as possible.